The climb up Mount Seller was a nightmare. The peak, 4,650 meters high, was a wall of ice and rock. They used rugby socks as mittens, their shoes tied with string. Avalanches rumbled nearby, and crevasses yawned below. After 3 days, they reached the summit, expecting Chile's valleys. Instead, they saw a sea of peaks, stretching endlessly. Roberto cursed. Nando sank to his knees. They sent Tintin back to save food and faced a brutal truth. They underestimated the distance. Chile was still days away. Nando and Roberto pressed on, their bodies screaming. They rationed their meat, sipping snow to stay hydrated. Storms pinned them down, winds tearing at their clothes. They slept in shallow snow caves, their sleeping bag barely keeping them alive. Nando's thoughts drifted to his father, Seller, who'd named the mountain they'd just climbed. Roberto focused on his mother, promising he'd see her again. They bickered, pushed each other, but never gave up. Their friendship, forged in the wreckage, was their strength. On day 10, December 20th, they stumbled into a valley. The snow thinned, revealing grass and a river. They were in Chile, but civilization was still far. Exhausted, they spotted Sergio Owasso tending cattle. He shouted, but the river's roar drowned them out, where he tossed them bread and rode off. He returned the next day with soldiers. Nando wrote a note, his hand shaking. I come from a plane that crashed in the mountains. I am Uruguayan. We have 14 people still alive. Please help us. Carried it to the army, and the gears of rescue turned. The Chilean Air Force dispatched helicopters, but the Andes fought back. Winds and fog delayed the mission. Nando and Roberto, now in a military outpost, guided the pilots via radio. On December 22nd, 2 helicopters reached the Valley of Tears. The survivors, hearing the rotors, wept. 6 were airlifted out that day, the rest the next. The 16 who walked out, Nando, Roberto, Gustavo, Carlitos, and others, were barely recognizable. They'd lost half their body weight, their skin gray, their eyes hollow, yet they smiled, clutching each other, alive against all odds. The world was stunned. Headlines screamed miracle in the Andes. Families who'd held memorials rushed to hospitals in Santiago. The survivors faced a media frenzy, their story too big to contain. The cannibalism leaked, sparking debate. Some called it survival, others horror. The survivors, backed by the church, defended their choice. They'd made a pact to live, and they honored it. The public, after initial shock, largely embraced them as heroes. Recovery was slow. Physically they healed, though frostbite left scars. Mentally, the Andes never left them. Nando became a motivational speaker, turning his pain into purpose. Roberto finished medical school, specializing in pediatrics, as if saving lives could balance the ones lost. Carlitos, ever the joker, wrote a memoir with humor and heart. Others, like Fido and Roy, lived quietly, their stories private but no less profound. They stayed close, bound by a trauma only they understood. The crash site remains in the Andes, a frozen monument. Climbers visit, leaving tributes across, a plaque. The survivor's story, told in Alive and Beyond, resonates because it's universal. It's about what we do when the world turns against us. It's about the choices that define us, the bonds that save us, and the will to keep going. The Andes stripped these men to their core, and what emerged was raw, messy, human triumph. So what's the takeaway? The survivors of Flight 571 didn't just survive a crash, they survived themselves. They faced hunger, grief, and moral lines most of us will never cross. They climbed mountains, literally and figuratively, to come home. What would you do in their shoes? Could you make those calls? This story challenges us to look inside, to ask what we're made of when the stakes are life and death. Drop a comment what hit you hardest, the avalanche, the trek, the pact they made, and tell me what other survival stories do you want to hear. Like, subscribe, and let's keep uncovering the incredible.